Hello there, Laura.
Susan, how are you this morning?
I'm okay. Appreciate your support.
Yeah, not a problem at all. When we spoke yesterday, you had indicated you're okay with calls being recorded for quality assurance and for note taking purposes. Is that still okay?
Yes, I definitely think that's important. I appreciate
Okay,
that.
one moment. Yeah, no problem. One moment. This call is now being recorded. Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Susan. So, I am calling today. We briefly spoke yesterday, going through some of the intake information, and I told you today we'd spend probably about an hour or so talking about the housing issue you're facing, and that you're our client here at our helpline at Legal Aid, and you're not charged for the service. Legal Aid is a nonprofit, okay?
Thank you.
Um, I always let people know at the beginning of calls because legal aid has really limited funding and also has had a reduction in our force. The service that I can promise you at this point is just a consultation over the phone. But if there's additional help, I could potentially send your file to one of our local offices to further investigate. So I work at a helpline out in Raleigh. It's a call center. But Legal Aid has offices throughout the state of North Carolina. Every office handles a handful of counties. So Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, we have a local office in Winston-Salem. So if I could
Okay,
send your
good.
file, it would be going to our local office. So it's still Legal Aid, just our troops on the ground in Winston, okay?
Yes, I'll definitely know that I'll need to have some support with the referral or whoever. So I appreciate you making record and having all the files available for whoever
Okay.
you refer to. So thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to thank me. That's just my job. So, the notes that I was able to kind of piece together is, from what you kind of told me yesterday, and also when your mom submitted your application, she added some documents to your online application, and you added some. So I was looking through everything, and it looks like you are a participant in Transitions Community Living, TCL. It's a program out of Forsyth County, and they pay a portion of your rent. And you've been facing some mental health illnesses, and in late November, your landlord sent you a letter saying that you had to move out, that they were going to terminate your lease and you had to move out. But there was some negotiation done, and now they're saying, okay, you could stay through the end of April, but that come May 1, you had to move out because they were going to terminate the lease and they wanted you out. And then if you didn't move out, they would start an eviction case against you. Is
So
that
there,
right so
so
far?
there's, I'm still unclear about the details because they have violated the agreement by not attempting to communicate, and the TCLI, they've attempted to communicate with them, but apparently it's been a struggle to. And in terms of when they started threatening to evict me, with no terms or reasoning, is October 31st, back in the fall of 2025. That was the first
Mm-hmm.
time I was
Mm-hmm.
put in emotional turmoil because I was being threatened. And along with being threatened to be evicted is also the risk of homelessness, the risk of committing
Yes.
suicide, and all of these other factors. So they were
Mm-hmm.
creating that by not and they had no legitimate reasons to do that. And
Okay.
also
What
that
is
would
the what are they saying is the reason? Do you know what the reason they're saying is?
I was told through third parties that, not direct communication. I was told that the reasoning was that my therapy bunnies were messy, which has no effect on anybody else. That they were that I was reporting. They complained that I reported crimes from some of the neighbors who are still liable, and that's a separate case. Apparently, but I was taking responsibility as a resident to report things. And they have record, and I'm still having to deal with the verbal abuse. I don't know if you read that. So, but finally, Dr. Kirsch and Dr. Green were advocating about
Mm-hmm.
the racism and the death threats and the sexual harassment that's been ongoing, not to mention the animal cruelty. So I've been reporting crimes, and they were threatening me not to be in touch with law enforcement, and that they did not address any safety issues. I informed them via email. They never even attempted to reply so much as we're trying to address these safety issues. I received no response other than that we got not okay notification that the payment went through. All they've done is take the money months to months. They have false allegations about me being a problem when the other neighbors were committing crimes and are still and conspiring to murder. So I have not had support that I should have with that, and they are the problem too. Quarters Real Estate.
Okay. Um, so I do see in some of the documents that had been either provided by you or your mom, it doesn't say who exactly uploaded things, like on the hub or now. But there were some reports that there were 5 rabbits in the home, and that the rabbits were not confined to like a cage or some sort of fenced in area, so that they were spreading feces and urine throughout the home. How many rabbits do you have right now?
I have 5, and I want to clarify
Okay.
that they are not just rabbits. They are not just my pets. They are my
Right.
They are my therapy animals and my emotional support animals. I am just now, years later, after them being members of my family who have saved my life
Uh-huh.
and the communities too.
Uh-huh.
I am just now beginning to acquire some basic support for cleaning,
Uh-huh.
for that kind of thing, because I
Uh-huh.
have gone above and beyond, done manual labor on a slave level of having to maintain the space, and they're complaining about things that don't even affect them, and they're complaining about things that these other neighbors are liable for committing crimes against them, bestiality, pornography, and other things that that they are committing, and they have PCs and all those things, but they're trying to make me their liable scapegoat. But I'm the one. But I'm
Mhm.
the one who's trying. We are the ones who've been trying to help.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
So
Okay. Did you submit anything in writing to your landlord about the rabbits being your emotional support animals?
I
Anything
should
in
probably
writing?
follow up. Yeah, follow up about that. Thankfully, my psychologist, Dr. Kurt, she's written several advocacy letters. One that they're my therapy emotional support animal bunnies, and also two that they're requiring, excuse me, some extra care, and how much of an effect they've had on my entire health and lifespan. So they've been there when where medication has not. So I definitely needing to have to follow up about how important they have been and are. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'm just taking notes.
Oh,
So
of
hold on.
course. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh. All right. Um, and I don't want to cut you off, so I want you to kind of tell me in your own words, like, what's been going on? What are your goals? What are you hoping to gain from this consultation? If there's information that you want to share with me about what you've been facing beyond what I've already kind of briefly summarized, I want to give you the space.
Thank you so much, Laura. And you're the first one of the first ones. So I'm really grateful. So actually I'm getting ready for another court case, but you need to understand how it correlates, because if this had not been if the housing had not been in jeopardy, number one, the TCLI, like you mentioned, yes, they paid a portion of the rent, and my mother covered the other several $100s worth after they raised it 3 times, but they did not. They were putting me in jeopardy because someone was trying to remove my support from the TCLI program when it should have been continued. In fact, we were needing additional support. And at that time, when they were threatening also to evict me,
Mm-hmm.
they were forcing us into a position of having to get the bunnies out. So they were moved to a fairy tale farms in the farm where in
All of
Colfax.
them or
Uh,
some of
uh,
them?
well, we moved 2 at a time, and so all 4. So I only had my one of them here with me,
Okay.
but all 4 of them were separated. We were forced into this agreement, told that was the only option. I was told that that they took my disability check for the month. They did not ask my permission to do that, and there was no need to do that. And they said they had a 3-month agreement that was not in written terms. They issued no invoice. This was all done under the table, and they had no way to authenticate that they were ethically treated, that the volunteers were, they were very suspicious. Then so the next thing, I had to go visit them, and I thought that, I was attempting to communicate. I'm their mother and their owner, their rightful owner, and they were taken out of my possession as though I had no decree in that matter, and kept away from me. They refused to communicate with me, and
who is they?
Fairy Tale Farm, the people who took my disability check for the month, and they were supposed to be boarding them. They said they worked out an agreement for them to be there for 3 months. Well, they didn't let me know till after the fact.
Hold on one moment. Who worked out the agreement with them? Was it you in Fairy Tale Farm, or someone on your behalf in Fairy Tale Farm?
Well, it was my mother who's currently my legal guardian. I'm having to restore my rights. That's another thing, because she has been it's become a dictatorship rule, and like I said, they did not have my permission. They did not even inform me that was what they were doing, and they were forceful about it, and they did not let me communicate with my own therapy buddies. So I went over there with a friend, and I got accused of trespassing, breaking, entering. And that's what precipitated this whole other case that should have been disputed as of months ago, back in the fall of 2005. So not only was that it was also became a further problem, because I, as their mother, was in emotional turmoil over being separated and having all these other additional triggers to anxiety, depression, and anger and trauma. But also, excuse me, I was also interrogated by the police department when I was in the process of reporting other crimes. They threw me in jail, and they did not have any, they said that the Guilford County, that they had issued a warrant for my arrest. I was thrown into jail, and they would not have let me go if I had not been bailed out. And that was just by chance that my friend of a friend had seen the police report and paid the money for the bail. My family and other friends were not willing to do that. They weren't even aware of that, and I could not call anyone. I had not had food. They were mistreating me and keeping me locked up in prison for several hours, and so that all should have been avoided. The person I went with was not written up. He's a white male. He's a friend of mine, and he was not even written up as being. But he's the one who drove over. We have evidence of videos. So this is a case I'm forced to have to go to. I want to make sure I'm not incarcerated under false terms, being innocent and being convicted based on their wrongdoing. They were not even. Yeah. So that's the trial tomorrow morning at 9 in Guilford.
Okay, and like I said, legal aid's only going to be able to advise you on your housing case.
Yes,
okay?
yes,
so
but
the breaking and entering and
right. I just want you to understand how it correlates.
I get it.
Okay,
100%.
So,
just want to make sure we're on the same page so that you know the scope of the services
I understand.
That we can provide,
and so to keep the focus back on the housing issues and a quarters real estate, part of the issue there is that they have not been willing to communicate either, and so that's created this the tension and conflict, and nobody's able to communicate, then we're not able to resolve anything, as you know. So we've needed somebody to step in. TCLI has attempted, they said, to be able to communicate, but all they've done is accept these payments, and then just recently, I think it was last month, they kept pushing the deadline out, but they waited till the end of the month. I have been up in the air about this, and it's been a severe havoc on my health, because that's wrong to put someone in jeopardy and not even come by and ask how they're doing. They never once checked in on their tenants, and so they recently have moved the eviction day, like you said, to May 1st. But in all practicality, for reasonable reasons, I'm just one human. I am not able to figure out every single thing without help. I have not been able to even go anywhere, and on limited means, and have to deal with these other court cases and things. I have not had help to look at any other prospective places. People have not been willing to do that, and so I get blamed, and they're putting pressure on me in an unrealistic time frame, purporting that they are
Mhm.
being lenient and generous by offering a time frame, but they're getting a paycheck. They're not even caring about their tenants' well-being or the safety of the other residents because they've never even attempted to communicate or address these things.
Okay. So, what are your goals? What would you like? Because usually that's how we kind of start these calls. Is like, ideally, what would you like to happen?
Well, that's a good thing to
You want to
shift the
remain?
yeah, good thing to shift the focus too. So for practical, I've been having to recover here. I'm recovering from multiple things: being victimized, being drugged, being raped and tortured, and from psychogenic seizures. So I'm definitely still in recovery. Not oh, so that's just a small list, but I'm definitely trying to calm down about things, get some support that I've needed as of years ago to basic maintenance, basic cleaning, basic uh, care for the bunnies, and having to address the safety issues so that I can actually feel safe because I continue. I will make sure that you have the letters from my doctors saying about the verbal abuse and the death threats that have affected my sleep and affected my health. So that
Do
continues.
you
And
want to?
go ahead.
Do you want to stay at this home? Do you want to move from this home?
So I'm trying to be able to have a career move. I am looking at other places, Wilmington,
Okay.
Charlotte, the Triangle, yeah. But I wanted to be able to potentially find a way to be here for now, so that I
Hmm.
have the
More than
flexibility.
more than May 1st. You're saying like you need more than what they're
Exactly,
giving you.
exactly, exactly. So
Okay.
that's yeah, that's just a
Okay.
reasonable request, and then being able to branch out and make sure I had secure my housing because they were putting me in jeopardy for the only option being homeless, the only option being on pushed out, evicted. Not to mention a criminal record, which I can't afford to have at this point. I am trying to get gainful employment, but I have been been struggling with that. So I just need to make sure that we can resolve the lack of communication and care on Quarters Real Estate part, that we're able to bridge that connection. They understand it's important to be able to not have an artificial deadline set time frame, put that pressure on me and on us. It affects all of the care team, everybody, to be able to
Hmm.
have the freedom and flexibility. They're still getting their paycheck.
Yeah.
None of these claims against me are legitimate. In fact, they should be thanking me and checking in, and they're not. The other thing I want to mention in regards to safety and health is that I've asked for help to change the locks on the door. People have had access stolen things. I have had theft issues and things with the neighbors. This is not a safe area. So my neighbors have surveillance doorbells. I've asked for help to get that installed. I paid out of pocket to get that. That is something that they should be able to at least address or have somebody come by to help mount it on the door. But they have not addressed any of these things. In fact, they said the last thing I asked for help with was changing the disposal, and they said, "Well, I should have to pay for that." And that's something that is in the budget of the paycheck they get every month. They never made an attempt to be helpful, and they let things go that had to do with safety, like the surveillance, like the key lock chains.
Mhm.
And the other
Mhm.
thing was, I was in jeopardy, and they would not even respond. They were they were responding to other tenants. They were trying to get other people in so they can get money from them, and they did not even come by to ask how I was doing or check on anything. The power was out. They didn't respond about that. I have to handle all these things that are in the budget for them, and also they are quick and easy. They have the resources. They are helping other tenants, but they are discriminating against me and treating me as though you know there's something, I'm the problem, I don't deserve to be here, but they're still taking money, and they're not even doing their job. So that's been wrong on their part. So
Okay. So what I want to ask you, listen, I want to be very like clear and upfront that I'm on your side, right?
Thank you.
Sometimes when I talk to people in fair housing cases, sometimes the advice as part of fair housing feels a little like accusatory in a way because of the nature of how the Fair Housing Act works, okay? And sometimes that gets misinterpreted like I'm not listening or I don't understand what you're going through. And like that's just, I just want to kind of preface that with that's not where I'm coming from, okay?
I appreciate that.
Part of the Fair Housing Act, if we were to say, because you said like, look, I need more time. I can't move by 5/1.
Exactly, yeah.
I need more time, and if I can find a different place to move, great. But if not, then I'd like to stay here. I get all of that. Part of what you're facing is this lease termination notice saying that they want you to vacate. They want you to end the lease, and they want you out by May the 1st. So sometimes what we could do is submit a written reasonable accommodation, okay, which is a written letter, okay?
Okay.
Sort of like a letter to the landlord. And it's under the Fair Housing Act where we're asking the landlord to make some changes or accommodations because of your mental health, okay?
Okay.
So part of a reasonable accommodation is you would have to disclose at a minimum that you're a person with a disability, okay? And that you have some solutions for addressing the issues that they are bringing up. And I think it's namely like the rabbit, which are your ESAs.
Okay. But we have letters from the doctor. Yeah,
right?
go ahead.
So there's this difference of opinion between what you say and they say. But it sounds like to me that the reason they don't want you in the home anymore is because of the conditions of the home, given you had your 5 ESAs in the home, okay? And now you only have 1. So the way to kind of bridge the gap in a fair housing situation is to submit a reasonable accommodation where you ask the landlord to rescind, take back the letter where you're saying I have to move out by 5/1. And instead, give me an accommodation where maybe you can keep one of the rabbits, maybe that 1 ESA we submit additional documentation saying this is for your mental health and it's for therapy and it's recommended by your doctor, and that the rabbit that's living with you right now, what's that rabbit's name?
So I just want to make it clear that I have a right to have all 5 of them. I know that seems overwhelming, and it has been because I've been doing the manual labor to maintain them. I'm their rightful mother and owner, and I have a special bond with each one of them. Yes, we have a big family, but no, I'm not able to get rid, and it's not right to require me to get rid of my family, my therapy bunnies. We are a tight-knit, close family. We are needing some basic support that the government is trying to be able to get within our budget to provide that should have been provided for years ago when requested, but I have been maintaining to the best of my ability, and they are in a close space. They are not monitoring all these others neighbors' messes after the animal cruelty cases that are still ongoing, just so you know. But no, I
you feel like they're sort of singling you out.
Oh yes, exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. But what the rabbit that's still in your home, what's that rabbit?
Well, my first rabbit, Mr. Ginger, Peter Rabbit. He's I guess he's the older the older one, not oldest one now. He's and I'm trying to be able to conquer the fear of taking them with me because I need to have them supported, but I don't feel safe in the community right now. So I'm trying to get support with actually feeling safe in the neighborhood, where it's supposed to feel like a home, and it has not. So I'm trying to be able to request a refund, not only to rescind this, to adapt the agreement so that the time frame is more fluid, that's not set in stone, and also that I could be able to see what's possible to negotiate some partial kind of refund or something.
I'm not sure if a refund would be available, and the reason being is for refunds, they're called like rent abatements. You have to show that the value that they're charging, the fair market value of rent that they're charging, shouldn't be what they actually are charging. And the way that I explain that is like if you were renting like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and one of the bathrooms didn't work, there was no running water, no toilet, no shower, you effectively have like a 2-bed, 1-bath, right? So you could say, I want a rebate, I want a refund for the difference of, what a 2-bed, 2-bath charges versus 2-bed, 1-bath. Because there was some value to the home that you were renting, right? So I don't know if a rent abatement claim would be
could you send me the information on that? I still want to pursue that, to see what's possible.
I can send you some handouts on that.
Thank you.
I think the more pressing issue, though, is the notice to vacate.
Exactly, yeah.
And I don't know if there's going to be a long-term solution, right? So I'll send the file to Winston for them to further investigate. But like I was going back to that reasonable accommodation request, at a minimum, you would have to sort of describe that you're an individual that's facing some sort of disability, mental health disability, because that is what's protected under the Fair Housing Act, okay? So the Fair Housing Act
is that through the ADA, the American Disabilities Act?
It's different from the ADA. It's different. The Fair Housing Act says that it's illegal in North Carolina for a landlord to discriminate against you on the basis of, and it has like a laundry list, race, gender, family status, disability. Disability is one of them, okay? So illegal discrimination can include evicting a tenant because the tenant belongs to this protected class, protected group.
Okay, great.
So
thank you.
Mental health disability is one of these protected groups, okay?
Okay.
So that's how you trigger the Fair Housing Act to apply, is to say that you have a mental health disability. And again, this is the language that the Fair Housing Act uses, okay?
Yes, thank you for explaining this.
And you have to show that there is a connection. It's called a nexus, a connection between your disability and the reason for the notice to vacate or the eviction, okay? And you're asking the landlord for a reasonable accommodation to stop the vacate deadline, to stop a potential eviction being filed. And here it sounds like, because I don't have like a formal letter from the landlord saying, well, we want you to move out by 5/1 because of you breached the lease X, Y, and Z ways, right? I don't have that. But it sounds like, if I kind of piece together the documents provided and what you're telling me, it sounds like the vacate deadline of the 1st of May is due to your ESAs, and they claim hoarding and how the home is not kept in good condition, okay? So if they are claiming that, you could say, well, I have a disability, my mental health, my mental illness is directly responsible for this, and therefore trigger the Fair Housing Act to ask for an accommodation. Say that that you need more time. There was a note in here that there was some work between, hold on, let me pull it up. One moment.
Okay, and while you're looking for that, I wanted to try to understand what's possible in terms of adapting the time frame for the agreement. Yes, you're requesting accommodation, a reasonable accommodation. Can that, time frame? It was never an issue before. It was just there was no set deadline, so it was a fluid time frame. And then I was not, and like you said, that was not threatened at all to be evicted. So that yes, they were, continuing to get via auto pay month to month, which is, but it was not like you said, a set time frame. So if they could just be able to not have a set time frame or
so
set
there would still be a set time frame. They may say, well, or it could be two things. They could say, and again, these are possible outcomes, absolutely no guarantee, but you could make an argument that I need either more time and provide a different deadline, than May the 1st. Or you could just say, rescind, take back the notice to vacate altogether and start from scratch, and preserve my tenancy by writing this reasonable accommodation, in writing to fully rescind the notice to vacate. Argue that your disability caused you to act a certain way, and that you're going to take certain steps to address it, and I found what I was looking for. I think it was a letter, or like when your mom submitted submitted your application. Like I said, I never spoke to your mom. She submitted the application for you, okay? So when she submitted the application online, she just typed stuff on our online portal. And she had put that there was a lease non-compliance issue. So this breach, this broken promise. And that currently there's a coordinated clinical stabilization plan that is actively underway through Partners Health Management. And you could argue that I need a reasonable accommodation given my disability. Give me more time, rescind the notice to vacate altogether, and let me work through this plan, this individualized plan to get back in the landlord's quote-unquote good graces, right? To kind of like reset it, right?
Yeah.
If
What is
that's
this
something
called?
you're
The coordinated?
interested in, I could send it to the local office to further investigate that.
I appreciate that very much now, and I hope to connect with the local office too. It's called the Coordinated Clinical Something Plan. What is it?
Your mom had said there was some sort of coordinated clinical stabilization plan that was in the works.
Okay.
So if there was a way to like stabilize the situation and prolong your tenancy and raise a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act, then that might be something that can be done. So for example, unrelated to your case, the hypothetical that I give is, say someone, and I'll tweak the facts a little bit to be somewhat similar to your situation. But again, this is not you, right? This is just an example I'm giving.
Okay.
Someone has a mental health issue, and maybe they lost a child. Okay, they had a child pass away, so they are in this like depressive state. Mm-hmm. And when they're in this depressive state, they cannot keep their home in good condition. So dishes pile up and dirty laundry piles up and trash doesn't get taken out, okay? Mm-hmm. Because they're in a depressive state where it makes it impossible for them to do what, the outside world considers like basic functions, right? Well, it's not easy for someone going through something and in the trenches, okay? So sometimes landlords will send a letter to that tenant saying, you have to leave. You're breaching the lease. It's too dirty in here. We want you out, okay? And that person could say, well, I'm diagnosed with depression or anxiety or PTSD, whatever it might be, right?
All of the above.
I'm going through it. I'm going through it right now.
Okay.
And I need more time to clean my home or get the help that I need to get the home in good condition. Take away that notice to vacate, revoke it, rescind it. Mm-hmm. Let me work on a stabilization plan to get in your good graces by doing X, Y, and Z, going to therapy, having family or friends help come clean. Yes. I understand you said I need all 5 rabbits. I'm not sure if 5 ESAs is going to be something that for example, a treating physician would recommend. They may say 1, they may say 2, but I think it would be really important to see how many ESAs a treating physician would recommend, right? And maybe having some parameters, like that the rabbits stay in a cage or a crate or like a, when people have puppies, they have those
they've been
children.
in cages.
I know, they've been in cages.
Right.
Like that.
We're trying to improve the housing within the housing.
Something like that. Just ideas. I'm not saying you have to do this, just to kind of get the mental juices flowing for some ideas.
Right.
Because it's a little give and take with these, right? You say, please revoke or rescind the notice to vacate, but I'm going to do some things too so we can kind of bridge that gap, okay?
Yes,
okay. So if that's of something of interest to you, I could send it to the local office for further investigation.
Yes.
You would have to disclose some information with the landlord. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable doing that, but like I said, there has to be this nexus, this connection
absolutely.
between the
I've been willing,
and what's going on here.
Right.
So you would have to share some information, and the landlord probably knows some stuff that's going on because with TCL, right? So being part of TCL, they understand there's like behavioral health connections there with that voucher.
Right.
So I could send it to Winston. I just want to also say that even if they were to pull back the notice to vacate, right? as a renter, you cannot stay somewhere indefinitely. And I think you understand that because you even mentioned, like, I don't know if I want to be here forever. I might just need more time to find a different place, okay? So if they rescinded the notice to vacate and or gave you additional time, then there might be some point in time where you would have to move, okay? Maybe it's not May the 1st, maybe it's months after that, but just to let you know that an indefinite stay at a place that you're renting is not feasible, right? That the landlord just can't have a discriminatory reason to terminate your lease. Could there be other reasons that are non-discriminatory that they end your lease? Possibly, that like non-payment would be one, but here you're paid, right? So like non-payment of rent, people falling behind on rent, there's not going to be a defense to that. But in your situation with your ESAs and the condition of your home, if there's a way to remedy that, offer a solution to that so that they rescind the notice to vacate and give you more time, that could be something that could be explored under the Fair Housing Act by asking for a reasonable accommodation, okay? But there's a specific process, like it has to be in writing. They may ask for additional supplemental materials from a treating physician, like if you're submitting stuff about your ESAs, it may require a letter from your doctor. And that's why I'm saying, like, if the doctor is saying no to 5, but yes to 1, then they don't have to make that accommodation for 5, but they may make the accommodation for 1. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but that's not an issue, and it shouldn't be. But I do have reasonable documentation already from my doctors, thankfully, so we can follow up to provide those materials.
Okay.
Excuse me.
That sounds good. So I will send your file to Winston-Salem.
Thank you.
They will get your file, and they will review it, and someone from their office will reach out to you.
Right.
They have your email. They have this phone number. I indicated that email, voicemail, and text messaging is all okay with you. It was a struggle to get in touch with you previously, and I get that. That's okay. I just want to let you know, going forward, the local office has a case volume that's really high. Okay. So they will reach out to you 2 times. And if you don't reach back out to them or you don't answer their calls, they will close your file. Okay? And I don't want that to happen.
The whole issue was I was trying to reach back, but we were having trouble connecting. So just want to make sure we could coordinate a time when we're both available.
Yeah.
So
and I'm going to put a note. So at the helpline, it's harder to do that. To first set up a consultation off the bat, right? We usually try to play phone tag and then set up a call like we did yesterday. Sure. I will put a note, though, in your file when it gets sent to the local office that maybe they can text you ahead of time to try to work out a phone consultation. Would that be good?
That would be very smart. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yep, I'll put a note in there. The other thing I just wanted to mention, because, again, I don't know the extent of services that the local office can provide, right? I am an attorney that works in a different area of the state, in Raleigh, and all we do is a call center advice over the phone. Kind of like triage at a hospital, but it's just calls over the phone. So I try to give as much advice to the clients at this point because I don't know what resources are going to be available at the local office, okay?
All right.
So, we talked about the Fair Housing Act. We talked about reasonable accommodations. Let's talk just a little bit more about the reasonable accommodation, and then what happens if they don't grant it and if they filed an eviction. I just want to give you a little bit of advice on that too, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, for a reasonable accommodation, you have to make sure that what you're asking for is reasonable, not unreasonable. That's why it's called a reasonable accommodation. If it's reasonable, the landlord should allow it. If it's unreasonable, they can deny it, okay? It can even be reasonable if the accommodation requires the landlord to change their normal rules or policies. Like if they have to alter the normal way that they do business, as long as it's a reasonable request, they should allow it, okay? And again, these reasonable accommodations should be done in writing, never verbally. The reasonable accommodation letter that is sent to the landlord would include medical paperwork related to your disability. So that's why I said you have to feel comfortable enough to disclose some of this information with your landlord to trigger the Fair Housing Act and to submit this reasonable accommodation in writing. And the letter explains that your particular behavior was related to the disability that you're facing, and that you outline a treatment plan or outline a game plan and ask them to recall or rescind the notice to vacate and allow you to implement this treatment plan so that you can go to therapies or do different coping mechanisms or, just get your ducks in a row, And by calling off this vacate deadline, it allows you that opportunity to get it, quote unquote, under control or to begin implementing these new strategies and techniques, okay? If they deny it or if they grant it, right, and they give you more time, I just want to say in the future at some point, people sometimes face eviction in these sorts of situations, okay? So just briefly what eviction is, it's the way for a landlord to go through the legal channels to get you removed from your home. It's not, it's quick, right? The court system kind of moves faster than normal in eviction, but they have to go through certain legal steps, legal channels, formally through the court system in order to evict you. So it's an eviction hearing that takes place in civil court, not criminal court. It's heard by a magistrate or a judge. In order to start the eviction process, the landlord has to file 2 court documents with the clerk of court, and those are called a summons and a complaint. They can sue you for possession, so to ask you to leave. They can sue you for also potentially money if there was damage to the home or if someone was behind on rent, okay? The tenant is aware of the eviction case because the landlord, after they file, has to get the tenant served. And you could get served as a tenant by either the sheriff coming and handing you the documents personally, or the sheriff could just leave the documents at your home, like at your front door. That's called service by posting. And both of those ways are legitimate ways to serve in an eviction case, all right? And then those court documents would have a court hearing date listed on there. Again, that would be in small claims court in front of a magistrate. And that's where you have this evidentiary hearing, like when you think of like court on TV, Law and Order or whatever, where they present their case and you would have a chance to present your defense, okay? And sometimes the request for a reasonable accommodation in the Fair Housing Act could be a defense if an eviction was filed, okay? We're not quite there. That's why I want to send it early. But if someone lost at the small claims level, then a judgment is entered. And
well,
if you lose,
it should not even go to this point, but I appreciate you understanding, more in depth what would have been involved. But this should have been, this should have been resolved earlier. But they were not on their part willing to communicate. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. And I hear what you're saying. It's just like sometimes, if you're saying they're being unreasonable, they're not listening to me.
Yep,
so I always fear, like, if that's the case and they don't want to work with you, then their next step is going to be to file an eviction.
Well, I have a right to file. I have a right to file against them if I'm not able to receive any kind of reply or communication or even consideration for a refund, which I will remind you to please send me information about because.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just so that if a tenant lost at that hearing in front of a magistrate in small claims court for an eviction,
yes,
they're not kicked out that day. They have a 10-day window to appeal. If you did not appeal, then the tenant would be, then the judgment becomes final, and then a writ, a padlock order gets issued. So I usually say, like, if you get eviction paperwork, you're not kicked out the day that the sheriff serves you. You're not kicked out the day that you have your hearing if you lost. You have a 10-day window to apply.
10-day
window,
okay? 10-day window to appeal. Okay.
But if it ever got to the point where you did get eviction paperwork, you can always either call the local office if it's within the next couple of months, like within this year, you can call the local office because your file will live with them. Or you can always call our helpline. If you have trouble reaching the local office, you can always call our helpline, and the number for the helpline will be in the email that I sent to you. I'm also going to send you in that email the number for the Winston-Salem office because that's where your file will be going today. So if you have updates in the case, you can update the local office because that office will be managing your file at this point, and it will be leaving my office here in Raleigh.
Okay. So they
so
transferred
I won't be the point person to speak with about this matter after it gets sent to Winston, because I don't work in the Winston-Salem office.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for clarifying that, and I appreciate. I'm so glad that you have these connections here too. So that's good. Also, I just wanted to make sure you know that I'm not trying to violate anything here, in terms
I
of
know.
privacy. But I'm recording this, and I know you're recording yours on the line, and this is only, as a positive thing to make sure that I would like to request access to be able to share this with my care team, the TCLI care team, so we're on the same page. So we, since we're covering a lot of ground, it's a lot of details,
Yeah.
and save energy to put, instead of having to.
I will.
So,
The only thing I'll say is when you and I speak, we have what's called attorney-client privilege. Okay? So our conversations are privileged. If you share this with other people or add other people to the call or to our communications, it's no longer privileged. So I think of attorney-client privilege as like private, right? It's a private conversation. And if you want to waive that privacy, then that's up to you, because you're the client. You hold the ability to waive it or not. And that's why I told you when we spoke yesterday that you're the client, so the only person I can talk to is you, unless you specifically give direction to talk to someone else.
Yes, and thank you for
if you want to waive if you want to waive attorney-client privilege, that's entirely up to you, but that just means that our conversations are no longer private.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for explaining, and also about the guardianship that you mentioned about to the estate versus the person. I'm glad to know that differentiate that.
That's what it seemed like. I mean, my supervisor and I looked because we were trying to figure out when the hub application was opened, who do we talk to, right?
Yes.
And it looks like your mom is the guardian of the person, not guardian of the estate.
Yes,
so that would mean that you still maintain the right to contract. And since the lease is a contract, that's why we felt the need to speak with you as the client and no one else unless you gave us that specific permission. So I wouldn't be communicating with anyone else unless you specifically directed me.
Thank you very much for clarifying all that. And yes, and so just so you know, and you can add this to my record too, I'm in the process finally of restoring competency. So I still have to submit, as of today, submit my paperwork to get the paper served, and then they've already set a date for the actual hearing for the restoration of competency. I have the guardian ad litem here, John Combs, and they're going to finally be able to get my rights restored. So.
Okay. And like I said, I wouldn't be giving you any advice on that. The only sort of extent of advice was to try to give you an idea of like why we were talking to you versus when your mom submitted the hub application. And that's why I was kind of talking about the estate and guardianship issue, is just so that you understood like the framework of how, like, why I was calling you and how I only talked to you. Okay. So this will go to Winston today. I will send it over after we hang up. Do you have any questions for me before I let you go, though?
No, you've been so helpful. I appreciate it, and be glad to get have a positive testimonial. So I really have needed your support. I thank you.
That's my job, so don't worry about it. But I hope you have a really great day, and just please remember to answer calls when the local office reaches out to you, but I will put a note in there that you would prefer a text to schedule a call so that you're more prepared. And if your voicemail box is not cleared out, like if there's not enough space on your voicemail box, clear some out so they can leave you a message, okay?
Thank you so much. You've been so helpful.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
No problem.
Thank you,
take care.
Ms. Laura.
Have a nice day.
You too. Thanks again.